you how would you tell people that? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I don't research on this.
Hey everybody, welcome to Matt with Maddie 12. It's the 12th one. Guys, we are here, we're going to be talking about some Matt Powell, which you can see from the thumbnail, where I'll be honest, I may have pettily emphasized Matt's rosacea, and perhaps given him, like a fake zit and extra skin modeling. But which normally I wouldn't do because, rosacea is a medical condition. I have family members with it. But on the other hand, when you're a genocidal bigot, I don't really care.
Yeah, on the other hand, F Matt Powell, because we have PG-13 rules here, so...
It would be a little early.
I didn't want to waste it. Yeah, it's a little early, and we're both a little too sober to waste that.
Yeah, well, hopefully not for long, though, because eventually...
Correct.
Because, for those of you who might be new, which I think I am seeing maybe one or two names that I don't recognize super well. First, welcome.
Hi, new friends.
Second, our Tuesday shows here on Dapper Dino, which always start at 6 p.m. MST, which means coming up next month, they are going to shift for most of the rest of the world. So, sorry, guys.
I like that this is your, one dinosaur protest against daylight savings.
Well, I mean, it's all of Arizona, except for the Navajo Nation. So.
Well, no. What I'm saying is, I like that you are, I know that you're just doing it at your normal time,
right?
But with the knowledge that it would be more convenient for almost the entire rest of the world if you moved it. But I appreciate that you're no, I will not be inconvenienced.
Daylight savings time is nonsense, and we should all abandon it.
Mm-hmm.
Including the Navajo Nation, guys. Come on. I don't have a whole lot of complaints about the Navajo Nation, but that's one of them. Come on, guys. Why you got it? And I know the answer is because actually most of their territory lies in 3 other states, and it's more convenient for them to actually have the whole territory on the same time. And since most of their territory is in those 3 other states, it's more convenient for them to observe daylight saving time. But still, it's annoying when you drive into the Navajo Nation and your clocks change. And then you drive into the Hopi Reservation, which is inside the Navajo Nation. And then your clocks change again because the Hopis don't do daylight saving time. And then you drive out of the Hopi Reservation and back into the Navajo Nation, and your clock changes again. And you've been in Arizona the whole time.
I feel like... I feel like we should all just get on the same page. Also, that's really annoying for doing weather stuff, because weather stuff, you do everything in Greenwich Mean Time.
Yeah. I also realized I forgot to add the chat to the stream, but you know what? We're going to start giving our drinking rules while we do that. So, guys, like I was saying before I got sidetracked, on Tuesdays we do a little bit of a drinking game with the creationists involved, right? So, if the creationist in question does certain things, or a few different random things occur, or there's a few ways you guys can cause it, we take a drink. Now, when I say take a drink, we're not taking a shot of hard liquor, right? I have a whiskey rock, so I'm going to sip each drink. I also have some water next to me, so when I get thirsty, I don't have to gulp whiskey. It seems like a bad idea.
That is a bad idea.
Yeah. So let me pull up the chat here. Yeah, I forgot to do. Sorry about that, guys. There's the chat. So our first chat trigger is just when Matt Powell says something that's so stupid, we just kind of feel like our brains are going to melt. We cool that off a little bit by taking a quick drink. If Matt Powell gets something factually correct, which does happen from time to time, then we'll take a drink. But it can't be just him quoting somebody else. He has to use his own brain to produce the right information. He can't just read it. So we'll take a drink for that. Also, we'll take a drink anytime Matt Powell mentions any violence at Columbine School, or if he mentions the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or prominent members thereof, or their various activities between, say, the 1930s and 40s especially. Take a drink for that, which happens a lot.
Surprisingly a lot.
Yeah. Also, I think we can take a drink anytime he just hard pivots with no segue onto a new topic, especially if that topic is trans people. Because for some reason, Matt Powell will be talking about, like, here in the Bible, it's talking about a dragon. So, trans people are bad. And it's just like, what? Okay. Well, first, no, but also, okay, I guess you don't need a transition.
Yeah.
So, also, we will take a drink anytime Matt Powell tells a joke that doesn't land, or tells a story that didn't happen. For example, if he mixes up a argument that he had with a shampoo bottle in the shower with a real argument he had with a real atheist, because, Matt Powell thinks everyone who doesn't like him is an atheist. And let me double check. Maddie, are you an atheist?
I'm not an atheist.
Weird. So, yeah. So anytime he tells stories like that don't happen, but there's also some random stuff. Sometimes you might hear a Godzilla or a Mothra, and we'll take a drink for that if that happens. Also, if you're a channel member, which I know there's now actually a whole lot of you because gift memberships are a thing now. So,
Ooh.
Yeah, you can give 1 or 5 gift memberships, I think, at a time, and people get a 1-month gift membership at the $5 level. That gives you access to the channel emojis, and if you send any super chats or channel membership milestone chats with those, with the emojis of Ghidorah, Mothra, or Godzilla, we'll take a drink for that. Also, because I know that, especially for the visually impaired, the accessibility for super chats is not great. If you send a super chat and you just include those words, we'll also take a drink because I understand the intention, and because some of my visually impaired members have said that, yeah, the accessibility option for the emojis is just terrible. I had one person tell me,
frustrating.
Yeah, I had one person tell me that she just randomly stabbed at her screen in hopes that it might work, and it did not. So yes, because YouTube is not great with that one. If you just type the words, it'll be fine. Of course, if you can, it's more fun to send the emoji, but that's if you can. Also, if anyone super chats anything to the effect that AIG are a bag of dicks, we will take a drink, but you gotta be clever because they won't let you type that in directly. You have to have references to it, or use Pig Latin, or we've had people use Klingon or Latin, things like that, right? That'll work. Yeah, YouTube doesn't censor Klingon. You can say whatever you want in Klingon, they won't care. Let's see. Also, if someone gifts memberships, we'll take a drink for each membership. So there's that too. And also, the Severian has just joined the channel at the level of Tetrapod. Thank you very much, the Severian. Welcome. Guys, put some Tetrapods in the chat. And Guptu3, who's been a member for 4 months, says, he doesn't need a transition, but I do. There you go.
I like it. I like it.
And yes, Guptu, yeah, the joke is that I'm trans. And yes, Guptu is trans. Actually, he was on my Leaving Young Earth Creationism show. So if you want to see the story of Guptu3, Leaving Young Earth Creationism, you can check him out on one of my previous episodes. But Maddie, do you know of anything that I missed? Any drink triggers that I didn't get?
You hit all my favorite ones, so I think we're okay.
All right, and I did say tells a joke that doesn't land, I think. But if I didn't, there you go. Also, My Unfinished Journey for $2 says, dragons are trans because they're in drag. Duh. Nice, thank you.
Love it.
All right, here we go, guys. Matt Powell, who's somehow worse than Raw Matt, even though Raw Matt is also worse than Matt Powell.
Yeah.
Let's compromise. It must.
Oh, he's talking about how Behemoth is totally a Brachiosaurus, guys. So.
Right, it has to be. It's obvious, and that has deep theological meaning.
Right. That's the context here.
Hippopotamus. Folks, I know you guys have all probably seen this before, but which one moves its tail like a cedar? They say it's a hippo. Don't compromise on what the Bible says. Obviously, it's referring to a Brachiosaurus. His stone.
So obviously, the only possible choices of any animal are Brachiosaurus and hippopotamus. Those are the only 2 animals it can possibly be referring to, and it's theologically critical that we know which one.
Well, so there's a few things. First, I love that most creationists, right, they just go with, it's a sauropod, right? Because that's a very generic group. You're not sticking your reputation to one genus, right? But Brachiosaurus is a genus of dinosaur. I'm just going to take a drink for the idea that Matt thinks that description can lead him to a particular genus. Because, no, even if we accept it as a sauropod, plus, and we probably went over this last time, but, the first thing you notice about a sauropod is his ridiculously long neck, which is a thing that doesn't come up. Yeah. It just doesn't come up. Also, on a recent stream I did with Vishanti, we actually were checking Job 40:17, or well, Job 40 in the Septuagint, which for those of you who don't know, is the ancient Greek translation that is actually the manuscript tradition that we have goes back farther than our manuscript tradition for the Hebrew text, which is interesting. We actually have older Septuagint fragments than we do Hebrew fragments for the Old Testament. So now that doesn't mean it's more accurate and that you should necessarily prefer the Septuagint reading where it differs from the Masoretic text, but it it reflects at least what the translators, who were all Jewish, thought of their scriptures when translating into another language, at least those particular guys. Like, it might not be representative of everybody, but at least represent some kind of thought. The word that they used for behemoth just means cow or bull. It's just the generic member of the species Bos Tauros, right?
That's spectacular.
So in the Septuagint, if you're reading it, it's just God's like, behold the bull. I'm like, okay, sure. Yeah, the bull's pretty cool. My administrating for two...
Go ahead, read the chat.
Oh, yeah. Also, I forgot, we didn't add one to our drink counter for when I drank. My unfinished journey for $2 says, AIG are a big bag of Vietnamese currency. There you go.
So, like, what's insane to me about this whole argument here is that, like, okay, let's read, if we think about, like, what's happening in Job at this point in context, right? It's, like, Job has had a real bad time, right? And he's a little mad at God, right? Yeah. This is Maddie's summary of the Bible. It's not great, but I've been told it's amusing. So Job has had a real bad time, and he's mad at God, and he told God that, right? And then this is like God replying, like, you know, where were you when I made the earth? Look at all this cool stuff I've done, and all these like animals I've made, and blah 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 blah, you know, and you're just a dude. And like that's what's going on. So like the context here tells us, okay, well, the specific animal does not matter, right? The purpose here is that like theologically, I don't really like this, right? Because it's like God's kind of putting Job in his place for daring to express anger or whatever have you at God. But like that's kind of the context, right? So, but no, you're right, Matt Powell. What matters is what specific animal.
Down to the genus.
Down to the genus. As if, you know, oh gosh. Like in the New Testament, right? There's like that story where Jesus is all like consider the sparrow, right? And God knows what happens to this small, tiny, insignificant bird. He clearly also knows and cares about what happens to you, right?
Yeah, but we should argue about which sparrow it is that Jesus is.
But we should argue about. But the important bit of that story is what bird,
right?
Right? Like that's not. God.
By the way, Arathamian for $20 says, like Behemoth's neck, AIG doesn't quote come up unquote, and we're gonna take a drink.
Love it. So this goes back to my completely genuine offer to like pay for Matt Powell to go take a college class in like communication.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because
like
he's
a class
super
on
bad
rhetoric.
at that.
Well, he's super bad at it, but I also think he is bad at being able to like read a long passage and summarize it. Right?
I'm not sure he ever even tries.
I'm not sure his reading comprehension is great. You know what I mean? Or even if his comprehension is fine, then he doesn't seem to have the ability to I am going to take in this information and synthesize it into a smaller, you know, synthesize the important bits. Like he's not very good at that based off of like the sermons that you and I have unfortunately listened to. So anywho, okay, we're clearly talking about dinosaurs in Job, and that's the most important part of that story.
All right, let's see if we get to Leviathan.
The sinews of his stones are wrapped together.
You know, the sinews of his stones are wrapped together actually probably has something to do with a lack of a scrotum, which is one of the reasons I think it's probably an elephant. and not a hippo. Although hippos also don't really have a scrotum, but it would be harder to check because they spend almost all their time in the water or eating you, and when they come on land, which they actually do quite a lot, they actually do spend most of their time eating grass on land at night. But that's the thing, it's at night. So
yeah.
Also, the nose that pierces snares makes it seem more elephanty to me. And also, I mean, people in the ancient Levant knew about elephants. They would have seen them in things like menageries, because wealthy nobles had menageries. Tame elephants from India made it all the way across into parts of like Eastern Europe and Eastern North Africa as like trade goods, basically. Like, here, buy this elephant. Oh, gee, that's a really cool thing to buy. If I'm fabulously wealthy, which not many people were, but they did exist. There were kings and such. So
well, and I think of what we're describing here is a really impressive animal, right? And that's the point. But like, imagine that like zoos didn't exist, or you were living in this time, and someone came and was trying to describe, like, let's say you lived in the United States, in North America, and somebody from Africa came over and was trying to describe a rhinoceros to you, right? Who in the world knows what would pop into your head?
Oh, I do, because I've seen the medieval bestiaries that try to draw pictures of these animals that have only ever been described to the scribes and artists.
Yeah,
it's
so, like,
wild.
Yeah. Sorry, that's what I was trying to allude to, those medieval bestiaries, and I couldn't, for the life of me, come up with that word. But like, again, the point here is that we're describing an impressive animal. It 0% matters what this animal is, or if this animal is real.
Yeah, that's right? Actually not that important.
It doesn't matter. It matters that the author thought this animal was real, right? But people have thought sea monsters were real. You know what I mean? Like, and if you were trying to come up with, like, you could be describing a kraken here, and it would, from a literary standpoint, express the same idea,
right? Even
if the author, turns out krakens aren't real, or krakens are just giant squids, Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Anyway.
Now, they're like, Matt, you're bringing up all these facts about science and stuff and misrepresentation. What about our side? All right, here's in a kid's book. We'll give their side.
It's a kid's website, but also, first, I props to Matt for admitting that this is from a kid's website. He usually doesn't, right? He usually just presents this as just what evolution is teaching. But also, Matthew, you're speaking to an audience of adults. Why are you going to a children's website? A website that is going to be dumbing things down, is not actually going to be giving you the full-throated version of the scientific consensus on bird evolution. This is where he's going. But let's go for it. Let's see.
Are chickens related to the T-Rex? Answer: yes. Science has revealed compelling evidence that the T-Rex actually evolved into a chicken.
Well, this isn't for Matt Powell, it's for the authors of that website, and we're going to take a drink because that's dumb and it's not true.
I also want to take a drink for this argument from incredulity, right? Like, he's making an argument from the tone of his voice that we're supposed to think this is stupid, but hasn't.
Yep. I took a drink for it. So, here's the thing. T-Rex and birds are both in the group Coelurosauria. That's the smallest group to which they both belong. So, talk through a little bit of the taxonomy, right? Most people know what a theropod is if you're into dinosaurs at all, or you ever were as a kid, right? They're primarily with two legs. They tend to be carnivorous, so they tend to be people's favorites often, like Velociraptor, T-Rex, Allosaurus, Ceratosaurus, like myself, all theropods, right? So, within Theropoda, the first divide you come to, and look, these are the major divides that have well-known names that you can find easily in literature. They're smaller divisions, but we're going for the main ones, right? So you get to Tetanura on one side, and then you get to Ceratosauroidea on the other side. Tetanura is that means stiffened tail, and they're called that because they actually have these ligaments that run along the transverse processes of the caudal vertebrae that help stiffen the tail to make it act sort of like a strong counterbalance, right? Because flexing your tail costs energy and it also leaves you somewhat prone to injury. So they're saving energy while keeping the balancing option by just stiffening the tail. So then within Tetanura, you have several divisions, one of which is Coelurosauria. Now, this is the group that includes Tyrannosaurus, it includes Velociraptor, Therizinosaurus, the ornithomimid dinosaurs like Gallimimus that you might remember from Jurassic Park. It includes a lot of things. Oviraptors, which you might remember from Disney's Dinosaur, which portrayed them as naked and scaly when in fact they were fully feathered, had plumes. We actually know that for very certain. We have quill knobs as well as preserved brooding behavior that only makes sense if you have feathers. But the thing is, Tyrannosauroidea is literally as far away from birds within Coelurosauria as you can possibly get. Every other non-tyrannosauroid Coelurosaur is more like a bird than T-Rex is. All of them. So, it is a little silly, and I say that mildly, to say that T-Rex evolved into a chicken. Absolutely did not.
Well, and this also, this idea of did T-Rex evolve into a chicken? I think fundamentally, the silliest thing about that sentence is that it's invoking this linear idea of evolution, that kind of march of progress picture. That's the image it's bringing up in our minds, you know, when that's not how evolution works. You know, it's not linear progression towards a singular goal, right? We would start with this, like, organism A, and that would, when exposed to, when living in different environments, branch out, right? And so, sure, if we have an endpoint, we've got a chicken over here, and really it's like there's a chicken here, and there's a T-Rex here, and there's something back here that we can trace them all back to.
The NB points out real quick that unless you think Megaraptors are Coelurosaurs. So here's the thing, right? I am going to not count them as in until the consensus is that they are, and then at that point, my statement will have to be modified to everything except for Megaraptors is closer to a bird than a Tyrannosauroid inside of Coelurosaur.
Right, but obviously what this children's website is doing is referencing things that children recognize and know and generally find interesting to help them learn some very basics of biological evolution.
So Stacy C sent a $2 super chat with no message, but then afterwards said, sorry, put an AIG thing up there. So we'll take a drink. That's fine. I appreciate the effort and the super chat. Thank you, Stacy. All right, here we go.
So from Jurassic Park's worst nightmare to lunch at KFC. That's what they think. That's really what they're saying.
I mean, yes, it's what this website is saying, but it's not what any actual scientists are saying. I'm going to put that out there.
Turns out the way we... Sorry, I have ice in my mouth. There we go. Turns out the way we expose children to ideas to get them excited about stuff and is not the same thing as, like, the...
scientific literature?
Modern science. Yeah, that's not the same thing as scientific literature.
This is in the category of things that I kind of call, like, lies we tell to children, right? It's like, okay, look, kid, you're not going to understand the actual way that this works. However, I can tell you a thing that gets the gist across and isn't technically right. However, it's close enough that later on we can build on it. It's sort of like, here's like the idea, like, oh, hey, you go through, like, your grade school. I'm using, U.S. schooling because it's what I'm familiar with, what I went through. Like, you go through your grade school, and you learn some basic things about, like, science and history. Okay. Then you get to high school, and they're like, well, okay, it's a lot more complicated than that.
Yeah.
And then you get to college, and you're like, no, that was all wrong.
It's a lot. So, like, my favorite example is you might teach a, like, second grader the basics of gravity. And we can tell, well, gravity is what holds us to the ground and keeps us from floating off up into space. And that's, like...
It's fine.
It's kind of true, but, like, it's ignoring, say, contact forces. Why don't, like, it's the center of mass of a human is being pulled by the center of mass of the earth, so why don't we just get pulled through the ground and to this actual center of the earth, right? That's also ignoring all the fun. That's also like Newtonian understanding of gravitational force. It's not like the actual Einsteinian understanding, you know.
Right.
So it's all these simplifications to get the gist across in a way that is understandable to, again, the audience of children who have, like, you realize you have to be like 7 or 8 years old before you can reasonably pay attention for 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a really hard thing to do.
By the way, we have a super chat from Sarah Talbert that says Godzilla, and we're going to take a drink for Godzilla.
Cheers. By the way, if anybody cares, my baby is now 7 whole weeks old, and she's amazing.
Awesome.
And we're starting to get a little more sleep at night.
Oh, good. That's important.
That's a very important. She still only wants to sleep while being held during the day, but at night she'll let us put her down in her bassinet. And she's only waking up like once in the night for a feeding.
I feel like I haven't had a baby picture in a while. There, Maddie.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I don't have my phone on me right now, but I will send you a baby picture.
All right. I'm hoping for at least a few over the course of the next week or so.
Oh yeah, no, her Halloween costume is going to be amazing.
Yes. All right. We're going to keep going. Here we go.
Yeah.
And evolutionism is like a cult. See, they won't actually tell you this up front. They will hide it. You know how the Mormons, they come to your door, pastor, and they'll hide that you can become gods. Well, it's the same thing with these guys. This is a full-blown cult, okay?
So, okay, he thinks evolutionists, because that's a real word.
Well, he used
hiding.
the word evolutionism.
Oh, okay.
Evolutionism is the phrase he used.
But so
I don't know.
He thinks
I don't know what organization that's supposed to refer to.
Well, yeah. So he thinks that evolutionists or whatever are hiding that T-Rex is related to birds. And the way that they hide it is by putting it on a publicly available children's website.
Uh-huh.
Okay, yeah, that checks out. That's not incredibly stupid. I'm taking a drink.
Yeah, that's not incredible. Yeah.
It's... My goodness.
Listen, most Mormons learn about the planet thing from when they watch South Park, right? Like...
At least there's an organization behind, like, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that could perpetrate such a deception.
Right.
That's not the case for evolution. There's no, like, Pope of evolution. There's no Quorum of 12 or prophet of evolution that you can look to and be like, this is the guy who is behind the whole conspiracy. Like, that's not a thing.
That's not a thing. Yeah, and that's something that, like, it took me listening to a lot of Christian fundamentalists and to understand that because their lives and their religion, and this is very much a high demand religion, right? Is structured with like a male authority figure, right? And everything that is true comes from that male authority figure. They assume that all other people in any organization or in like a university, they all must be structured the same way, right? I must get all of my information about, say, the weather in PhD land from my university preacher of weather, right? From some authority figure.
Or like Darwin wrote The Origin of Species, which is the holy writ of evolutionism.
Right, it's the holy writ. There's this idea that there is like sacred truth and sacred knowledge that comes from an authority, right? A physical authority that everyone else is required to believe. And that's how Matt Powell thinks the whole world works.
I mean, it's how his whole world does work.
That is how his whole world does work, but that is not how my world works, even a little bit. In fact, that's not even how the church I go to is structured, right? Like,
it's actually not how most churches are structured, interestingly enough.
Turns out, turns out.
When people tell me I believe in evolution, I look at them as every other false religion. Just any other false religion.
Except it's not a religion.
Right, it's not a religion, and can we drink for conversations that have never happened? No one has gone up to Matt Powell, raised their hand, and said, I believe in evolution, right? Like,
yeah, so you know what? We'll take a drink for false religion and another drink for conversations that just happen. Although now, you know, if I see him, I might actually do that just to prove you. Oh, there's Mothra.
Hi, Mothra.
Thank you, Mothra. So yeah, like I said, now if I ever see Matt Powell, I might actually literally put my hand up and say, I believe in evolutionism, just to prove you wrong, Maddie.
Just to prove you wrong. They'll have to go back in time, and we'll slap my hand away, and we don't get to take that drink.
Yeah, we'll just take that drink right off. So guys, if you're in the future, you see me come back from the past. No, wait, back to the past from the future to reduce the drink. That's what happened. Or does it have to have already happened? Because by virtue of me having not come back to do it, it either means I didn't do that or I didn't invent time travel. It hasn't happened yet.
Or there's also a theory that in the future, when time travel is invented, there is implemented a stopgap, such that no time traveler can go back in time before time travel was invented.
All of this is to say, hey guys, go watch the history of time travel. It's a really fun movie. And also, keep your eyes open, because there are a ton of Easter eggs that you have to pay attention to notice.
Yeah.
Especially also, keep track of any map, or any time you see the time machine. Make sure you look very carefully at all of those things.
We might need to start a drink counter for random topics Maddie brings up to avoid listening to Matt Powell.
Right. Also, David Lass asks, does Matt Powell use the same definition of religion as Kent Hovind? Probably. So Kent Hovind's definition of religion basically comes down to anything you believe for bad reasons. That's basically what it comes down to. And I think that's also Matt Powell's.
Yeah. Pretty much Matt Powell, anything Matt Powell knows comes from Kent Hovind, basically.
Yeah, to a large extent.
To a large extent. And two... I find it really amusing how much disdain you hear in the voices of people like Kent Hovind and Matt Powell when they use the word religion, right?
Which is weird.
It's so weird.
Okay. Science Simp 96 for $10 says, AIG es una bolsa de pollos. Take a drink.
Cheers.
Yeah, by the way, some channels have a language rule for chat. I don't care what language you use. Go have fun with it.
Wouldn't gallo be a better word there than pollo?
Well, if you're using the masculine plural, then you could go with the English calque of, a bunch of male gallus.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's one of those that it works best if you happen to know English and Spanish and what you're trying to say in the joke. One of those, you have to do the multilingual thing, which actually I kind of like.
Listen, yeah, I'm thinking of the chain of Nicaraguan hardware stores that's called El Gallo Mas Gallo, which is the rooster more rooster, right? But it's the biggest macho-isty, the connotation is the big macho something. So in my brain, I was I think we would probably translate gallo more to rooster or cock, right?
Right.
Anyway.
Look,
that's another random topic I brought up to avoid listening to Matt Powell.
We'll have to add a new counter, because just drink counters aren't enough. All right, here we go.
It comes to your door. They say, yeah, science has revealed compelling evidence that the T-Rex evolved into a chicken. People say, Matt, how do you get people to doubt evolution? Because there's a lot of people that believed evolution, but they'll watch my videos or watch somebody else's videos, Kent Hovind even, and they will give up believing in evolution. And
okay, look. My first instinct...
Actually, I'm going to go for stories that didn't happen.
Okay, well, here's the thing, right? Because I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, look. There's a lot of people who believe things that are true, but don't have good reasons to believe them. Right?
Yeah.
So, that's most people for most things that they believe that are true, right? I believe, basic things, right? You might say that you believe that someone is going to be at your next D&D game. It's a brand new player that you haven't really chatted with, but you believe they're going to be there. And the thing is, what's your reason? It's well, because people generally show up when they say they will. And that's a reason, but like you don't have data to back that assertion up. You don't have any experience with that person. Do you have good reasons for it? No. Also, you might be like, oh, well, I believe the distance between like the Earth and the Sun is, and then, you know, you give whatever non-AU units, because AUs are defined that way.
I was going to say 1 AU.
Yeah, I know. I know you were. Anyway, but like you say it, like you give it in miles or kilometers or whatever. And it's like, okay, but have you measured it? Have you looked into the measurements of people who have? And the answer for most people is no. You just accept it. Is that a good reason? Not really. It's a good enough reason most of the time for things that don't matter to you personally. So I do believe that there are people who believed evolution was true only because it's what their teachers said and they didn't really care, but they also didn't care enough to like actively. And then they got suckered in by Matt Powell or Kent Hovind. I do think that's a thing that's happened.
I do agree that's the thing that's happened. I disagree with Matt's statement that this has happened to a lot of people, though I suppose we would have to define what a lot means.
Yeah, that's like how many grains of sand makes a pile. Like, I don't know.
Right. Yeah, and then 2, my question would be, is the thing that pulled them in this stuff about evolution, right? Like, or was it like conversion to the high demand religion, right? Which, and kind of introduction into the, I don't know why I'm trying to avoid using, and part of being a member of the cult requires this belief, right? Is it, has that happened to like one person where they're like, yep, the thing that brought me here was that this church talked about men and dinosaurs. You know what I mean? Like, that's...
It does seem a little odd.
That seems a little odd. And especially because if you look at, like, the Ark Encounter at AIG, of all the material put out, of what Matt preaches about, none of this is designed to convert, right? All of this is designed to do is reinforce the belief of the cult.
Yeah.
Right?
Also, real quick, I want to answer a question from the chat. My Unfinished Journey says, when was the last time you gave AIG a chance to copyright claim you? Yeah. 2 days ago, actually. I uploaded 2 videos 2 days ago, one of which is currently available for early access for all my channel members and patrons. So, you know, if you want to spend $1 a month, you could watch it right after this. But yeah, that was an AIG thing, because the most recent series I just uploaded was about Kurt Wise, and it was from AIG, and he's in the AIG lab that exists for kids for some reason. They have, yeah, it's like a little like grade school chemistry lab looking setup. Like it has a little like chest height for kids tables there that you could put an experiment on. Anyway, and yeah, he's just sitting there with a computer monitor on one of the tables, and he's talking about the fossil record and how it's totally the result of a flood, and also saying that pine trees are extinct.
What?
Yeah, his on-screen graphics indicate that pine trees are extinct and went extinct during the flood. So figure that one out.
Sorry, what?
Pine trees.
No, I heard you. I'm just not processing it.
Yep, for some reason, his on-screen graphics indicate that pine trees went extinct during the flood of Noah. I don't know why. Yeah, it's a very, very strange thing. In fact, the name of the most recent, or the last of the 3 episodes in that is Pine Trees Are Extinct, I guess. Because according to Kurt Wise, apparently pine trees are extinct.
Excellent.
It's one of the crazier things. Anyway, here we go. Here's some more Matt Powell.
Somebody to deny what evolution is and deny evolutionism is by going to Google. The thing that they say made them disbelieve in the Bible is the very thing.
Okay, we're going to take a drink for people who believe in evolution just disbelieve in the Bible, because that's not how that works.
Right.
In fact, Maddie, you're a Christian.
Sure am.
Bent Hovind, who's my Kent with Bent co-host, is a Christian. I have Vishanti on most Saturdays, and she's Jewish, and at least believes in aspects of the Old Testament, or the Tanakh, or the Hebrew Scriptures, or whatever we're going to call those collection of books, because the fact that they're shared across 2 religions makes naming them a little bit tricky. So
a little tricky.
Sorry, guys. But yeah, those are not opposites. It's actually one of my pet peeves is when creationists just assume that it's them versus the atheists, and those are the positions you can take. Like other religions don't exist, and Christians who believe in evolution don't exist.
Right. And you know, when the fact of the matter is that the majority of Christians fully accept, the majority of people of faith, which includes the majority of Christians, fully accept like scientific consensus, you know, and the majority of scientists are in fact like practice faith, you know,
some religion of some sort, yeah.
One religion, yeah. But I mean, the reason they do that, right, that's straight out of the bite model for let's identify like cults. One is that in that thought control, like encourages black and white thinking, or us versus them, right? It doesn't work to say, well, we believe this other group believes this other group believes this. And, you know, because the more options that aren't yours, I think the less solid your belief feels, right?
It would be easy if it's just a dichotomy, right?
Yeah, it would be a lot easier if it's a dichotomy, because then it's like right and wrong, good and bad, or even good and evil, you know, us, them, black and white. Like that type of thinking keeps you in the cult, right? But yeah, and I think like acknowledging multiple other belief systems and trying to understand them, you know, that just makes you like a more empathetic, open-minded person. And it might make you a little less rigid in your own beliefs. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but I think Matt Powell would.
Oh, one of the things I want to bring up is Vishanti said, only some of the people in the Hebrew Bible are actual historical figures. Yes, that's true.
Yeah,
some of them are.
True.
Some of them are not. And I'll say one of my pet peeves with atheists is the ones who are like, the whole thing's fake. It's like, no, dude, there's sufficient external evidence to confirm the existence of various biblical things. You can't just say that all of it's fake. That's just as dumb as going the Matt Powell route where all of it's literally true.
Yeah.
Neither of those positions are correct.
I think there's a lot of people who leave high demand religions with the, like, they recognize, okay, all this stuff that I was taught, that's not true. Right, or that doesn't work, or that's toxic. But then like don't think about it anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of atheists that will like really don't have an understanding of like what I believe, right? There's a lot of people, a lot of atheists who hold to biblical literalism, right?
And we'll say that that's how Christianity works. When it turns out, okay, so guys, here's a cool thing about religions. All of them, literally all of them, are one, internally diverse, and two, things that you can't just make a broad statement about that isn't anything other than like the most generic thing. Like Christians believe in Jesus. Yeah, okay, that's true. It's about as much as you can say about Christianity as a whole.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you can almost get. I think the Nicene Creed is pretty, or the Apostles' Creed is pretty ubiquitous, but
the Nicene would be more ubiquitous.
True.
Eastern Christian churches don't use the Apostles' Creed.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I did not know that. But yeah, the Nicene Creed is pretty ubiquitous.
All right, here we go.
Where you can type this search in. Type in, when monkeys surfed. These are the first things that pop up. When monkeys surfed to South America, National Geographic. BBC, the monkeys that sailed across the Atlantic. Monkeys suddenly appeared in South America about 40 million years ago. Unlikely though it may seem.
Yep, Bakery points out they're Unitarian Christians. Yeah, even Nicene Creed's not going to work.
That's true.
It's a very common creedal statement across a large swath of Christianity. But yeah, even that's not going to be universal to Christianity.
Yeah.
They probably sailed there from Africa.
Okay, so we're
again,
going to
argument from incredulity, like that's, or like argument from like chuckle. You know, that's.
We'll take a drink for that. I'll take a drink. Yeah. So here's the thing about this whole Matt Powell bit, right? First, most young Earth creationists use rafting, which is what he's talking about, right? Like, there's a storm, animals get blown out into the sea, you know, and they find some kind of log or vegetation mat, and they cling to it because it's their lifeline, and then they end up on a new piece of land where they can survive, and they therefore colonize it. Yeah. And for some reason, Matt rejects this, even though AIG, CMI, and I believe ICR all accept that rafting is one of the major ways that post-flood dispersal of organisms happened. Yeah. Also, in history, and I mean like in the last century, there have been known instances of rafting, right? Like, this is a thing that currently occurs. Right now, species are in new places because they rafted there. Like, the green iguana is spreading across the Caribbean by rafting. It's primarily, I mean, you could call it an invasive species, but it's not like people are picking up green iguanas, iguana, and plopping them on new islands. They don't need to, because there are enough things like hurricanes that hit the region and blow iguanas and rafts of vegetative material out into the ocean, and the iguanas ride it to new islands. I mean, that's just a thing.
Let's just think about the first statement that it was on the slide before this, where the first statement was monkeys appeared in South Africa suddenly about 40 million years ago. South America. Sorry, what did I say?
Africa.
Oh, my bad. South America. Found it. There it is. South America.
Happens.
About 40 million years ago. Okay, so like that's a sentence. So this is kind of the scientific method here. Like, this is what's happening, right? Folks went down to South America, were studying the monkeys there. They're studying, say, like the fossil record, and like remains of different species there. And there's kind of a jump, right? They're like, all right, well, before about 40 million years ago, there were 0 monkeys. And then all of a sudden, monkeys within, or long periods of time that you would expect that we find other places. So we have this observation. I know how much, one of my pet peeves about a lot of younger creationist organizations is that, like, this idea that, like, paleontology doesn't involve observation,
which is weird.
Which is weird. It's like, no, I go and I observe a fossil record, right? Like, that's the observation. So, like, yes, monkeys, no monkeys, almost no space in between. That's weird. And then let's ask, well, by what process could this have happened, right? And like rafting as a thing that we observe happening now is not a bad explanation.
Also, it's happening in rocks that most creationist organizations say are post-flood, which means that, according to most creationist organizations, we're seeing in the fossil record of the post-flood world the arrival of primates into South America at some point in this fossil record of the Cenozoic. Rafting sounds like a great option for that.
Yeah, it does. And so even by younger creationist kind of points of view, this isn't like, oh, God just made monkeys there. Right? Like, that's not what even younger creationism would say. So, like, how did the monkeys get there, Matt?
It's very strange. Also, for $10, Silver Harlow says, haven't seen Cyanide up in 9 weeks, so here's my toast to Cyanide baby. You don't have to drink, but I am. You know what? I'll take a drink for that. Here's to Cyanide baby. I can drink
now because I'm not pregnant.
Yay.
Here's to Cyanide baby.
There you go.
She's perfect and I love her.
Awesome. And hopefully I'm going to get more pics soon. I haven't seen enough baby pics.
Prehistoric
on break.
Okay.
Monkeys traveled 900 miles between continents on rafts.
Here's the thing, right? I know that Matt is picturing purpose-built rafts lashed together by some kind of rope. That's not what we're talking about. Right. That's not what we're talking about.
Little monkeys in monkey rigging climbing around.
It would be adorable. But that's not what anyone's talking about. That is not the idea that scientists are trying to portray.
Aww.
As amazing as it would be. To be fair, though, all rigging that has ever occurred on ships, as far as I'm aware, has been done by monkeys.
True.
So, there is that. Monkeys
are not cute little macaques.
Right. Which also wouldn't have been what showed up in South America, but that's neither here nor there.
That does not, the adorable picture in my head is uninterested in what Matt Powell has to say.
Also, hey, large swaths of the macaque population worldwide are infected with hepatitis C, which is generally asymptomatic in macaques, but potentially fatal in humans. So watch out if you're near macaques.
Good to know.
Yeah. Also, lots of koalas have chlamydia. Yeah, it's a pretty big problem for koalas.
Oh no!
Yeah. they're just full of chlamydia.
Oh no!
Look, guys, if you want to preserve your wonderful picture of animals, maybe don't look into the diseases they share with humans. On the bright side, transmissible face cancer is on the decline in Tasmanian devils. Yeah, they have a transmissible face cancer that for a while was threatening them with extinction, but now the numbers are going down as apparently they're evolving to become resistant to transmissible face cancer.
Jeez.
Yeah. Anyway.
It says, well, the researchers from the University of Southern California say they must have managed to hitch a lift on floating rafts. Folks, these are the people that are telling us the Bible's wrong. And the first people that will tell you the Bible's wrong is the people that are telling you monkeys surfed across an ocean 900 miles. And when I pointed this out...
Okay, but how does the Bible say monkeys got to South America?
As far as I can tell, it doesn't say a damn thing about it.
Right, so these folks talking about how monkeys got to South America, you have no reason to believe they're saying the Bible is wrong.
In fact...
all they're trying to do is explain something. That is explicitly not explained in the Bible.
Right, and most creationists would actually believe with them that, yeah, rafting is a pretty reasonable way for primates to arrive in South America.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Out to the atheist community, I said, hey, this is what you believe, right? They're like, no, that's a straw man, Matt, straw man. And then they finally Googled it.
Okay, but Matt, the straw man isn't that rafting occurred. The straw man is the thing that you're trying to imply by not explaining what's going on. That these cutesy terms that are used to grab attention via headlines are literally true, right? That monkeys sail. What does it literally mean for a monkey to sail? Well, it means they had a ship with a sail, at least one, probably more, that they rigged up in order to intentionally cross an ocean. But no one thinks that's what happened. Or when it says surfed, no one thinks they had a surfboard. So the straw man... Actually, we're going to take a drink for Matt. Strawmanning, the people calling him out for strawmanning.
Mm-hmm. And
strawmanception.
He just said that he put a message out to the atheists, the atheist community, who? By what mechanism? Do you have a bat signal?
Right.
What does your atheist bat signal summon? You know, who does that put you in touch with?
Probably the raging atheist.
Probably.
And now they're defending this. And
yeah, because the underlying idea is almost certainly true, whether you're going with creationists or not, Matt.
This one guy, he puts out a video, he goes, you know what, Matt? I'm just going to go on record right now. Surfing monkeys, it's perfectly plausible.
It is, once you realize what's meant. And the thing is,
also,
it still happens.
If you were referencing a specific person, my guy, you would have used their name. Not this atheist went on YouTube this one time and said X, right? In a crybaby voice.
So are we drinking for things that didn't happen?
I'm drinking for things that didn't happen.
All right, works for me.
Yeah. I don't believe anything Matt said happened unless he cites something, references something I could reasonably look up.
Right, there needs to be a name and a date attached to something.
Yeah. Even I would take a name, right? I would take just a name. That's just Matt is really, really, really bad at citing a source, right? At giving somebody anything that they could look up. And it bothers me. And so until he starts adding that stuff, anything that comes out of his mouth is a story that didn't happen, you know?
Oh my goodness. Willow the Wendigo says, all I know is that Matt and Kent think they are the same kind because they have most certainly tried to bring forth. Oof, you know, there are things that I am not at liberty to say that indicate that is not too far-fetched.
Oh.
Yeah. Look, guys.
Let's go with some protective language. Things have been alleged to you.
Look, I literally can't go into it, but yeah. The likelihood of Kent being involved in some extramarital sexual activity is extremely high. Extremely high.
He literally said that.
Who is he? What did he literally say? I'm drinking again.
Okay, fair enough.
It's perfectly plausible. Surfing monkeys? Really?
I mean, most of the people surfing that I see are monkeys too. Although I have seen squirrels and dogs and things like that also surf. But most surfers are humans and therefore monkeys.
Here's another one that just came out. Dinosaurs once crossed oceans.
And?
It says, because Africa was isolated by the deep oceans at that time, duck-billed dinosaurs must have crossed hundreds of miles of open water, rafting on debris, floating or swimming to colonize the continent.
Okay.
Folks, this is not just unscientific. This is really hokey stuff that these people are believing and that they're teaching the kids.
It currently happens. That's the thing I cannot drive home enough.
Yeah.
Rafting is a thing right now.
And again, like...
it's like he might as well just be saying hurricanes don't happen, and his reasoning is he's never been in one.
Right, or like, oh, a storm can get that big.
No.
Like, Matthew. Matthew, may I call you Matthew? If you want to actually engage with, like, scientists or people who don't believe the same way you do, right? When they present you with an argument, you have to, like, you want to respond, right? You have to respond with more than really, right? Like you have to, I spend brain cells trying to understand what it is you think and why, right? So that I can respond to, like, not just what you're saying, but what you mean, and we can have, in theory, right, like a dialogue, even though it is over recorded videos, right? And you do not do this, Matthew, right? He doesn't respond to anything that he doesn't believe in with anything other than an eye roll. So to me, that says that Matt here is not interested, not even in honest dialogue, right? Like I don't just mean like an open and honest conversation. Like we're miles away from that. He's not interested in having a conversation.
No, he's not.
Right, where two people express different ideas at each other.
Well, look,
right, that is not something he's interested in doing.
This is the man who said, and I quote, "Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with cherry picking." Yeah. This is the man who is on record that's saying, I don't think it's important when I cite sources that I represent the sources accurately.
Cool. So I'm going to go, I choose which laws out of Leviticus I want to follow, right? Yeah. And so if you try to use Leviticus against me, then I think everything is, you said cherry picking is fine.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Kids are impressionable.
He chooses what laws he wants to follow out of Leviticus too, because I guarantee you this man eats shrimp, right? And he's not wearing he's wearing
absolutely
some mixed fabrics, right? Yeah. So that's a great.
To be fair, at least he's consistent that way.
Yeah, but then you're gonna have an answer better than "for the Bible tells me so" for him to like fuel his hate speech. I'm getting mad. Let's not talk about hate speech. Let's talk about monkeys.
Let's take a quick break.
Okay.
That'll be even better. We'll take a quick break. I'll pour some more water into this. I still have plenty of whiskey here, so I'm not going to run out of that.
Yeah, I've got a solid. This is Jack and Coke. I've got a lot left.
Nice. All right, guys. So we're going to take a quick break. Please stick with us. I will be back shortly, as will Maddie, and also have some wonderful music courtesy of Beethoven. All right. Hey, everybody. We are back. Thank you for sticking with us, those of you who did, which is the vast majority of you. Right before we get back into it, I want to give my quick little commercial for my stuff, which is to say, one, this channel is almost entirely supported by the voluntary contributions of viewers and fans. The amount that I get from the ad revenue makes up somewhere around like 10-ish% of the income from the channel. Almost all of it is memberships, super chats, super stickers, super thanks, Patreon, that kind of thing. So if you like this stuff and you want it to keep going on, hopefully keep improving. If you want things like access to additional videos of mine that haven't come out yet, I think right now I'm coming up on like you can watch stuff almost 4 months in advance at this point. Like I am just cranking out videos and putting them up for early access at a breakneck pace. So that stuff is available on Patreon starting at $1 a month, or you can get a 12% discount by going annually on that. And here on the channel, memberships start at $1.99 a month. It gets you access to those early access videos. It gets you access to my patron and member Discord server where we do things like after shows. Like I do after this, we're probably going to go watch Hellraiser 2022 in my Discord, which if you haven't seen it is excellent. So yeah, like it's a lot of fun. If that's not right for you, look, there's a lot of other ways you can support me. There's an Amazon wish list that mostly just has stuff that it would be nice if I had. It's kind of mostly fun stuff. Like someone actually got me a Klingon Empire flag recently. Still on the way, but it's coming. I'm gonna have a flag of the Klingon Empire.
Awesome.
There's also a merch store where you can get mugs, t-shirts, blankets, baby onesies, Maddie. I'm just kidding. But yeah, and if none of that's right for you, if like, you can't afford it or you don't want to, that's fine. Like the video, share it, put it places where you think people who would want to see it will look at it. And we have a couple things here. One, Elijah Robert said, you either have to assume Matt is so unintelligent that he doesn't understand he's lying dishonest, or that he's actively lying. Yeah, those are the big options there. But also,
those are the only choices.
Dr. Tapioca Weasel, sorry, gotta give the formal academic title, just gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. So, Theros Rex, Elron Teller, Alien Bird, W.S. Wordsman, all now members, current members who are already members, please send some tetrapods, and we're going to take 5 whole drinks. Here's 1, 2, 3, and 5. And now I'm going to drink some water, because I can feel myself being dehydrated as I speak.
Yeah, because you're drinking like whiskey on ice, right?
Yep. I did put more ice in.
Okay, good.
Whew, it's going to be a rough morning. My Wednesday morning is always going to be questionable, every single day of the week. Actually, a few weeks ago at the grocery store, I was walking in on like Tuesday afternoon to go buy some beer, and someone's like, "Oh, hey, off work," and I'm like, "No, this is for work."
This is specifically for work.
This beer is specifically to help me make money. All right, here we go.
So they watch all the Marvel movies and everything, and they might think that this is somehow believable.
What?
But Hitler said if you tell a lie big enough...
Right on.
We hit to... Wow!
Also, it wasn't Hitler. It was his propaganda minister who said this. So that's a thing. It's often misattributed to him.
I definitely get all of my knowledge of science from Marvel movies. That's totally real.
Yeah, that's why I'm still looking for some vibranium for my, I think my car frame would do better if it were made of vibranium in an accident, so I'm looking for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Probably would.
Loud enough and often enough, people will believe it. Hitler also said, he who owns the youth gains the future.
Again.
Yeah,
look at our youth today. It's so sad. People always say, we need sex education in the school. No, we don't need that. We need anatomy, basic biology, cosmology.
You know that once the anatomy starts turning to things like reproductive health, you're going to complain about it.
That's what sex ed is.
Exactly.
Right? Sorry. Like,
sex
understanding anatomy, like anatomy and consent. That's what sex ed is.
I mean, just today, I saw a tweet of someone saying, wow, you spend way too much on feminine hygiene products. You should just hold it. What?
Oh, no.
Like, yeah, maybe we do need some sex ed, because that is not a very good take.
Well, like, then you know what? For the first time ever, I agree with Matt Powell on something, and that is anatomy education is lacking.
Yes. You know what? It is true that anatomy education is lacking, because my goodness.
Yeah, especially for men.
You know what, though? I've seen some pretty bad female anatomy takes from women, too. That still happens.
Fair.
I think overall, anatomy needs to be better addressed in school. You should know the parts of your body are and what they do and how they do it at the most basic level. Like, if you can't say, like, what your kidneys do, what your liver does, what, say, your urethra does, and why your urethra might not be the same as any other orifice in your body, and the different biological functions might happen with different orifices.
Yeah.
That's a problem. So, yeah, you know what? More sex ed.
Even if your understanding of, like, kidneys and livers is, like, I'm pretty sure that, like, gets toxins out of your body.
Good enough.
You know, that's
good enough.
That's good enough. You know that I got 2 kidneys and 1 liver, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably.
The NBAT also points out, you know what's funny? Sex education actually helps cut down on assaults on children. It also helps cut down on teen pregnancy rates.
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah. It also cuts down on STD infection rates. It does all the good things surrounding sex.
Yeah.
Now, you might say, but I don't want my kid knowing all this stuff about, and then you say a thing, whatever, maybe you don't. However, if your concern is, I want my kid to be healthy and not get pregnant at an inappropriate age, or get someone else pregnant at an inappropriate age, more sex ed is good.
Also, there is not a, like, public school on the planet that would force a child to go to a sex ed class against their parents' wishes, right? Like, if the parent, like, wrote a letter
on the planet, I don't know. In the United States, it is a requirement.
In the United States, sorry,
I can't speak
for
the whole.
Very embarrassing of me. I can't speak for the whole planet. But like, if the school your kid goes to has, you know, comprehensive sex ed, and you're like, I don't want my kid to go to that, right? Like, turns out you actually have the right. You could write a letter to the administration and say, I don't want my kid to go to that. And then your kid would go sit in the library for that hour. You know what I mean?
And then your kid's the one who's probably going to get chlamydia like a koala.
I mean, that's true, right? It's like, I'm not saying this is a good idea, but if we're just going to back up, like if your concern is you don't want your kid to know anything about sex ed, right? That's what you want. You still don't have the right to say that no kid gets to have sex ed, right?
Yeah, that's not appropriate.
Yeah,
by the way,
it's not appropriate.
Bree in the chat points out that I actually have a cloaca, the one-stop plumbing shop. This is true. As a dinosaur, basically as a non-therian mammal, I do in fact have a cloaca.
There you go.
All right, here we go.
What are you talking? That's the last thing they need to be thinking about as kids.
No, they're going to be thinking about it regardless of the sex ed class.
They're going to think about it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was Matt just not? Did he just not go through puberty? Was he on puberty blockers his entire life? Because unless he's been on puberty blockers his whole life, he spent a good period of his life thinking about it a whole lot.
A whole lot. Well, and no one is, like, people who put together sex ed curriculum, right? Know how to do that in an age-appropriate way, right? Like, following things that are normal, right? It's normal for a little kid to have questions and be curious about their body and how it works. And that includes, maybe what we would refer to as private parts at that age, right? That doesn't, like, explaining what that is, right, doesn't mean, that's not age inappropriate, and that's not, like sexual, you know what I mean? Like we call a lot of this stuff sex ed. That does not mean it's like inherently sexual in nature.
Your kids aren't going to school and watching pornography.
Right, that's not happening. There's they
might be watching a live birth though, which
that's
it's quite a thing.
Yeah, like, hey, these feelings that you're having are very normal, right? And they're probably because of these like hormones. Hormones are a type of like chemical that happens in your brain.
Okay, but here's the thing.
Right?
I honestly think that Matt Powell, if his kid said something like that to him, would say something like, well, that's just your sin nature and you need to pray it away.
Oh, probably. Yeah, that's the devil tempting you. That is, I never got that message at home, but that was definitely like the general environment of the this is why I like to say I was raised cult adjacent.
Yeah, well, you also got to remember that, I mean, Kent Hovind is big on the only reason you believe in evolution is because you're horny. So,
I mean, like,
yeah,
my guy, I'm married. I'm married and a kid. I'll let you make some inferences. Like, I don't.
No, I'm sure Kent Hovind assumes that you have some kind of wild lifestyle and all sorts of craziness going on. Which, whether
allegedly,
you do or not,
he has a more wild lifestyle. No, actually, he has a more wild lifestyle than I do. Not even allegedly, just based off of. That's not alleged.
His
that's
publicly
just, like,
acknowledged
factual.
what's going on. There are allegations that make it even wilder. But,
right, there's allegations that make it even wilder, but just what like he has openly discussed. Yeah, no, he is way more than me. Anyway.
All right, well, here we go.
In our school system,
cool.
The Bible says the wicked shall be turned into hell and all the nations that forget God. People say, you don't sound politically correct. That's what the Bible says. We got to defend what the Bible says. I'm not ashamed of any of the Bible. They also believe that rodents cross the ocean. Now, the reason they're saying this is because they're finding fossils that are out of place.
Okay, but also because rafting occurs. IRL.
Yeah,
right now.
That whiplash was a little intense.
Yeah, we'll take another drink for the whiplash.
It was trying to follow the train of thought, and there was no train.
Yeah, that's a whiplash drink. We'll take a drink for that.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Bree points out a good point. Maddie, if you and Matt Powell talked, you wouldn't be able to get over your hair. It would distract him the entire time.
Oh, no!
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Because Matt is like, he wants to be the fun police, right? He has this whole video complaining about atheists who have, like, video game or movie posters up in the room that they film in.
Uh-huh.
And how, like, they're just
What do you
kids.
think would happen if I told him this is my backdrop for a D&D stream?
Oh, I'm sure that there would be some kind of complaint about how you're just living in a fantasy land, and these are the people who think I'm crazy. Because apparently, if you play D&D, that means you think it's real.
Right, yeah, and that's what I do literally all day, and, well, okay, listen, right now, I spend all day taking care of a baby.
Right.
Because I get a semester of maternity leave.
Hey, maybe normally in a couple years she'll be old enough to play D&D with you.
Yeah, we can start with No Thank You Evil.
There you go.
It's a very fun children's tabletop game.
All right.
Anyway,
also, I'm pretty sure
that for my small cousins.
Matt Powell has just so little fun in his life. Like, I don't think he watches movies or plays games or, like, my goodness. I'm pretty sure the only thing he does, quote unquote, for fun is listen to contemporary Christian worship music.
Ooh.
Yeah. Some of it's not that bad. A lot of it's really bad. Especially the Catholic stuff, which I'm pretty sure he's not listening to. Sorry if you're Catholic out there. But basically everything that you guys have written since, like, the 1700s has just been trash.
Yeah.
Just stop. Reverse course.
Side note, a remarkable number, and specifically John, what's his last name? Stein?
I'm not sure.
He was in the band. He was in the Christian band.
We're deflecting.
I'll remember it later.
We're deflecting.
I'm sorry. I'm deflecting to not listen to Matt Powell. It's fine.
I wonder how those fossils got out of place.
I don't know, Matt, because a lot of the fossils you've been talking about are supposed to be post-flood, according to you and your buddies.
And specifically, these are not talking about fossils being out of place. This is like, okay, there should be a fossil here, and there's not.
Right, there should be, like, previous antecedents to this fossil, but it just appears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, well, we found a monkey that was trying to get on a vegetation mat, and it was trying to survive, and it was buried.
No one found an actual fossil of a currently rafting monkey. Holy crap, Matt.
Holy crap. I was thinking of John Steingard, who was the guitar player for Hawk Nelson. Back when I was on a podcast with Sam Chaos, we like interviewed him. He's a very cool guy and has unfortunately had a very public like break from like deconstruction. So break from evangelicalism. The tangent I was trying to go on was that a remarkable number of Christian music artists that like played while I was growing up are either very progressive and still in Christianity, or are like full deconstructed out of the faith.
You know who's been kind of on fire lately with Twitter is Phil Vischer, the creator of VeggieTales, who's been basically just telling all the evangelicals like, hey guys, you don't have to be giant assholes just to be Christians, just so you know. And then most of Christian Twitter is just like, yes, we do. Okay, guys, sure.
I know, but like, so many people my age are like, oh, okay, oh my god, thank you, creator of the thing that I loved as a child.
Oh,
right?
Wait. Like... Okay, real quick, ScienceSibs96, I hope you have a wonderful night, get some great sleep, and be great at school, learn all of the things. That's my good night.
Aww.
I love it when I find out that someone's kid watches me. I had someone send me a picture of a little toy dinosaur that her daughter put a little hat on to be her Dapper Dinosaur toy. I was like, oh my goodness, my heart might have just melted completely.
Oh,
this is so adorable. I actually use it as my avatar in a video.
Aww.
Yeah. Actually, real quick, Steve Renault said something about, oh, how dare you bash the religion I abandoned. You know, I can say some nice things too. Catholicism has produced some of the best architecture, I think, in world history. So there you go. I am absolutely not going to knock the aesthetics of Catholic ecclesiastical architecture stuff. It's pretty top-notch. So, here we go.
You're proving Noah's flood. That's what would have happened during the flood. So they're finding all these things and they're saying...
Look, my god, okay, what specifically would have happened? Why is a global flood the most logical explanation for what we observe? Right? Like, you can't just be like, flood, definitely. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just claim that without like that.
Also, I have probably 10 plus hours pointing out why that's a stupid take from Matt Powell. Go watch any of it. I have more of it coming up, because you know what? If there's one thing that creationists never shut up about, it's the flood, and it never works. In fact, I'll just take a drink for the flood, even though it's in rocks that most creationists say are post-flood rocks anyway.
Yeah, and the way Matt here is referencing the flood, again, you might as well use the word magic.
Oh, well, right? The thing is, that's what it is. The flood is magical anyway.
Yeah, it's just magic.
Yeah, a wizard did it, but the Christian version.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Christian wizard, the witch of Endor did it. There we go. Right? Yeah, Endor.
Which was there before George Lucas made it a forest moon.
Right. I was afraid I was just referencing Star Wars, but then I was like, no, I would win this Bible Bowl question.
Yeah.
It's the Witch of Endor.
That's the quote-unquote necromancer that Solomon consulted with.
Uh-huh.
That's an actual character in the Bible, the Witch of Endor.
Who predicted his death and that of his sons.
Hey, maybe don't go find out when your death is going to be, because that's information you probably don't want to know.
That's not what he was asking about, though, right? He was asking about how this battle would go.
Yeah, but still.
And she was like, real bad, bro. And he was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll go fight this battle anyway.
All right.
Well, they must have rafted across. They rafted across all right, but it wasn't very friendly rafting, I'll tell you that much.
Okay.
Progress in biophysics.
No, that was a joke that didn't land.
It's a joke that didn't land, and who has claimed that this is easy?
Yeah, no one. No one has ever claimed that. Oh my goodness, he's gonna do Octopuser from space. I promise. That's what's coming up next.
They're all illithid? Is this Spelljammer?
Oh man, I hope so.
Yeah.
I just wish the Spelljammer box set was more complete, had more lore. It's so bare bones.
Oh no!
Yeah. Look, what it has is pretty good, and I really like what it does have, but my goodness, it is tiny.
You just want more meat? You want to chew on that?
Yeah. They don't tell you much about like the Interstellar Illithid Empire, the Interstellar Lizard Folk Empire, what the Beholders are up to. They also kind of excise the entire need for the arcane species, despite giving them a stat block anyway, and saying that they're super powerful merchants. But like, why? Because it used to be they had a monopoly on spelljamming helms. Now they don't, because basically any artificer or wizard can just create spelljamming helm as a 5th level spell.
Jeez, that seems like it should be higher than 5th level.
Well, it's
Wait,
not.
Dapper, you're the one that brought up D&D this time.
True. That was me. Well, you said spelljammer, and then I went into it.
That's true.
You brought it up, but I just then diverted right into it. Anyway, this is not a D&D stream, though that could be some other day.
Yeah, listen, our D&D game is coming back. I promise.
I hope so.
Yeah, no, it's coming back. I've got way too much lore. I have done way too much work for stuff y'all have not found yet.
All right.
I just have a baby.
Molecular biology. Now, squids and octopuses, they have a different genetic structure than any creature in the world.
That's not true.
That's not true. Also, aren't like a squid and an octopus are not very similar genetically, right?
Not very, no. They're probably more genetically distinct than, say, like a human and like a koala. Regardless of chlamydia status in either. I'll take a drink for Matt Powell talking about, I don't know, whatever. I'm thirsty.
Well, it just seems like he thinks that a squid and an octopus, like, because I guess they're both cephalopods and live in the ocean.
I mean, so
like genetically speaking,
they are more closely related to each other than they are to, say, like nautiluses, right? Like there are more distinct cephalopods. But the thing is, when you do a phylogenetic analysis, which is specifically the genetics, right? We're taking a look at genes and chromosomes and all that, and trying to build a tree. Cephalopods nest neatly within mollusca. Like there's no controversy about that. They're mollusks.
Right.
They're just as much a mollusk as a clam or a mussel or a snail. Right? They are absolutely 100% mollusks. And they do not come from space. Oh, I forgot to talk about predictions. If we get a confirmed prediction, we take a drink, which is probably coming up here because I'm very confident he's about to talk about space octopus.
So scientists have all come to the conclusion that they could not have evolved from any other sea creature.
Very wrong. Just completely wrong. And I also want a citation on that one, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
Which means, hey guys, if you have a green name, which means you're a channel member, put those citation needed in emojis in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no chain there. So a team of 33 scientists
He says like that like it's a huge number. Guys, papers often have gigantic lists of authors. That's why the et al. Abbreviation is so important. Which, oh, by the way, our other subject, Matt, Raw Matt, in his fake paper that he pretended had been accepted by PLOS One, he listed all of his sources had et al. At the end, except several of them were actually citing single author works. Because apparently Matt Powell just thinks that et al. Is the thing that you end a citation in.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
But that is Raw Matt, not Matt Powell.
Yeah, that was Raw Matt.
Spoke there for a second. But
sorry, it was Raw Matt,
Yeah. Oh, no. He doesn't know what et al. means.
Silver Harlow for $5 says, WTF, Matt, we haven't had a National Socialist Workers' Party or prominent members or activities in the 40s drink in weeks. Oh, and we do, in fact, have a Mothra, so we are going to take a drink from Mothra.
Drink from Mothra! Right. I have a very fun new board game where you're fighting against various... you were trying to save a town from various American cryptids.
Ooh, that is cool.
It's very... So Mothman, I guess Mothman, not Mothra, but Mothman shows up.
That sounds like one of those cooperative board games, like Pandemic, or there's one I have where you're like trying to collect treasures from a sinking island. I don't remember what it's called though, but it's really
Forbidden
fun.
Island.
Yeah, I had that one.
Forbidden Island. Yeah, this game feels a lot like Arkham Horror or Eldritch Horror, but simpler and doesn't take as long.
You know, I taught a friend to paint miniatures so that she could paint her miniatures from a cooperative zombie board game.
Nice.
Yeah. Now she's really good, and she's been featured in by a few different games companies who put up like fan painted models. And I haven't painted a model in a while, but she's still going strong. So I take a little bit of pride every time someone recognizes her ability because I'm like, I started that. That was me.
By the transitive property.
Right. It's like, look, whenever your student does well, you as a teacher feel some pride in that.
You feel really good. Yeah.
So,
dude, one of my former Navy students.
We're super off track. I'm going to take a drink.
It's fine. She made lieutenant commander. And so, like,
congratulations.
She now outranks my highest rank.
Yes.
Right? Like, I was still a JG when I taught her. We were actually the same rank because she was a SWAT. We were both JGs.
Oh, okay.
But then I later promoted to lieutenant, and then I got out. But now she's lieutenant commander, and I'm like, whoa, you like outrank me.
Kind of.
Anyway, kind of. I'm out. I have the letter to prove it.
Right.
A couple years
Very
ago,
importantly,
said, and I quote, that squids and octopi are extraterrestrial origins from outer space that hitched a ride on a comet into our Earth.
Okay, and
literally no one thinks that, Matt.
So yeah, we're going to take a drink from Matt portraying this as the scientific consensus. Basically, the minute this was published, virtually everyone who had a dog in the race of, like, cephalopod evolution and origins was like, no, for these, like, 400 reasons. This should never have been published.
Also, this idea of this team of 33 scientists.
Whoa. Man, Illuminati confirmed.
Yeah, that's like, the last meteorology field campaign I was on, there was over 100 of us in the field, and that's a lot of students doing extra work, because, like, listen, somebody's got to launch a weather balloon 50 miles away from the tornado, I
gotta get closer, like in Storm Chasers,
for safety. No, we really don't do that.
But they did it in the movie.
So in Twister, that's still closer than you want to get. In general,
so
right?
It's my fault that I'm drinking for it.
Yeah, that's fair. In general, listen, the equipment that you are using to measure stuff about your tornado is so expensive, right? And like the point, like the distance from the storm where the equipment will get damaged is way further away from where I will get hurt, right? So as long as we're protecting our equipment, like, none of the humans are in danger.
By the way, I just realized we're only $22 away from me doing yet another Dapper Dino in Feathers video. You guys could make that the permanent way I look.
What?
Yeah, this would be if you guys do it, it would be the third video in a row that I do as the feathery Dapper Dino.
That's amazing.
So yeah,
I like your feathers.
Thank you. I don't think you've actually seen the most recent Feathers.
Oh, I don't think I have.
I've
been a little sporadic.
So, like, feathers have, like, erector muscles, kind of like hair does, so you can, like, puff out. And I got that to work on my feathers. Ooh, my feathers now have their own virtual erector muscle. All right, here we go.
I mean, they want to talk about superstition? Yeah, that's superstition.
It's not superstition because it's not invoking as some kind of supernatural or magical thinking. However, it is silly.
Also wrong.
Yeah, it's silly and wrong. But silly and wrong are not synonyms for, superstitious, right? Like, you could say it's silly and wrong to think that, say, the most recent previous president of the United States was an honest actor. But it's not superstitious.
That's silly and wrong. Right. There's no magical thinking involved. Question, his screen is really blurry, but can you tell what journal that was published in, or do you know?
No. It's just a blur.
Okay.
All right. This was, like many Creationist videos, this was for some reason filmed on a potato.
Yeah. Well, because my immediate question is, good God, how did this get through peer review? And my guess is that it was published in, like, a somehow, I'm going to use the phrase off-label journal, right? Like, this is fundamentally a biology thing, but did you publish it in, like, a planetary science journal,
I believe it was so, like, I did look into this at one point. I do believe it was actually published in, like, some kind of biology journal. I just don't remember which.
Okay.
Like, it was published in a place that should have known better, basically.
Yeah.
Also, Hillhugger for $5 redues says, Would Dapper be interested in doing a surfing dinosaur upgrade? I'm not sure what you mean by that. So, Hillhugger, if you can at me and let me know exactly what you mean by a surfing dinosaur upgrade, then I might be able to answer that. Because right now, the answer is maybe. All right, here we go.
God's not the answer. Okay, aliens then. Aliens.
Also, I want to point out that the paper in question actually didn't say that octopus eggs were, like, riding on the comet. It was more that, like, alien microbes might have hitched a ride on a comet that then resulted in horizontal gene transfer into some mollusks, which resulted in cephalopods way back when cephalopods emerged, which I think is, like, the Devonian or something? I don't know. Also, okay. Science Simp for $20 says feathers! Which, feathers! Let me double check. Yep, that puts us $9 away right there, I think. Wait, let me double check the math. So, all right. Yeah, $9 away. You guys could make it a permanent thing that I just always do feathers from now on, which would be very scientifically inaccurate because Ceratosaurus definitely did not have feathers. Just pointing that out there.
Okay, so also complete side note.
Take a drink for it though.
Okay, one of my favorite undergrad classes. This was like a sophomore level class, so we wrote a like literature review paper as a project for that class, right? In lieu of a final. But this was kind of when you're first learning how to read a paper and do a literature review, right? And the professor had us do something a little more fun than just a typical lit review, which was choose a theory, that a legitimate scientific theory that has since been proved false.
Ooh.
Right? And do a proper literature review on that theory. So it was really fun because, and it taught me a lot about like how the scientific process works, right? And so the theory that I chose to dig into is like the nemesis hypothesis, which is that we are secretly in a binary star system with a brown dwarf.
Ooh, I like that one, nemesis.
Yeah, and the brown dwarf passes through the Oort cloud every 26 million years or so, sending comets into the inner solar system that cause mass extinction events.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
That was a really fun hypothesis, and it has absolutely since been proved false.
Oh yeah, that's not a thing. But it was cool. It was cool enough that Isaac Asimov wrote a short story, or maybe a novella, called Nemesis that had a similar concept where there was a brown dwarf that was on, sometimes in the story it's called like a collision course, but really it's just going to pass through the inner solar system. But like, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And so like one woman finds out that this is the case, and like she's in a race to try to get to Earth to tell people like, hey, this is a thing that's coming. Like there's a brown dwarf and it's going to like pass between like Earth and the sun. Like that's a bad thing.
Yeah. Okay. So but the reason I brought that up, and it is related, I promise, is at the time, the reason this hypothesis came into existence, right, was there was some evidence at the time that in the fossil record of periodic mass extinction events on Earth, right? And so then the question arises, well, but like periodic at like 26 million years, right? So how does something happen every 26 million years? Well, that has to be at a like solar system level type of event, right?
Which would make sense.
So it turned, and so people are trying to come up with a way to explain that piece of evidence, right? Now, it turns out that initial bit of evidence, there were errors in it, right?
It wasn't as periodic as we thought.
Exactly. There is evidence in the fossil record of multiple mass extinctions, but they're not happening periodically. They're not happening on a specific cycle, right? And so when Matt Powell brought this up, my immediate thought was, you could get to this hypothesis, right, if you thought, if there was evidence that cephalopod DNA looked really different from all other DNA on planet Earth, right? And then in such a way that you have like there is no process on Earth, that known process that would explain it, right? So then, well, how do you get truly foreign DNA, right? Like, how else could this happen? But obviously, the answer is, well, the cephalopods are cool, but not alien, right? So I'm wondering if there was like a piece of evidence that was then later overturned. Right? Maybe we used to think cephalopod DNA was way more different than it actually is.
Not that I'm aware of, at least not as a consensus. But I mean, there were reasons that this particular group came to those conclusions. But also, Silver Harlow for $22 says, "Here's your tar, get feathered," which does put us over. So my next video that I make is going to have to be animated feathery dapper dinosaur again. Be the third one in a row.
I'm going to take a drink for you being tarred and feathered.
All right, that works for me.
It's not on the drink counter. I'm just making a choice.
Also, I think it's actually been enough time that it's probably time for me to update the feathers a bit. Because basically what I do is, periodically, as feather dapper dinosaur videos come out, I basically like advance the feathers a little bit. So they started out as just simple filaments, and now they're at the point where they're basically contour feathers like you would get in a modern bird. So I think what I might have to do is like start doing like a more extensive feather cover. Because right now I have sort of like an ostrich pattern where like my belly, most of my neck, most of my head doesn't have feathers, most of my legs don't have feathers, but they run along my back and the top part of my neck and all along the tail. So I might have to like expand the feather coverage for the next video.
Question.
Yes.
What needs to happen for your feather pattern to just go full peacock?
I mean, basically just keep making it. Just keep making it so that I'm always feathered, and eventually I will continue to expand how fancy they are, and then eventually I'll add in like blue and green iridescence and whatnot.
Right. I just want the fanciest feather display.
Well, tell to the audience. It's up to them.
Audience.
Well, unless you just start super chatting $120 super chats. Could.
Hold on. I don't have that much money, man. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna appeal to the audience.
Okay.
Oh, hey. I didn't see you there. Welcome. I'm glad you guys are here. I wanted to talk to you today about feathered dinosaurs.
Some good slurring.
And I wanted to talk to you today about feathered dinosaurs and how cool they are. And even though Dapper Dino, our host here, is a sauropod,
no.
Who would no?
Theropod.
What are you? Theropod is a theropod. I know dinosaurs. Is a theropod who would not have actually had feathers. Here, by the glory of the internet, he can have really beautiful plumage, but it all depends on you. All right, that's my appeal to the audience. It's my ad read, my ad-libbed ad read.
Dr. Tapioca Weasel asks, if I gift subbed 50 subs every stream for the next year, which I can in no universe afford, what would that do? Well, for one thing, that would make Benthoven basically permanently in a tutu for all of Kent with Bents. And basically, my feathers would probably just keep on growing week by week, because I would spend an inordinate amount of time working on feathers, because you would be specifically paying me to, essentially, at that point. You would have hired me to make feathery dapper dinosaur. It's basically what that would be. But all right,
love it.
Here's more of the Matt Powell.
And look, we have to give their side. We have to understand what we're up against. Okay, that's why
That's the thing. Is like, yes, we'll take a drink for Matt getting something right. You do have to understand.
Technically, that is a true statement. You do have to understand the other side.
Throw effort to do that. What he tends to do is do things like look at Fox News science reporting headlines, not even read the Fox News article, and then just go with whatever impression he got off of that.
No, he reads the headline and then like laughs and rolls his eyes or says, "Think of the children." That is the only response Matt.
All right, here we go.
I show what they teach, what they believe.
No. Matt, you cherry pick the articles you think are the silliest, don't actually read them, and then present them as if they are just the consensus of science, which they almost never are.
Or like as if this is what is being handed to your kid in like 2nd grade.
Yeah, which it also is not.
That's also not what's happening.
2nd grade kids aren't being told about rafting primates.
Nope. You know what they're learning about? Like, these are the continents. This is what a nervous system is. I think I did. No, that was like 5th grade. We made these like construction paper cutout people when we learned about. We like had pictures that we cut out of all the different body parts, cool. Like systems, and so we slowly built up our human anatomy like picture. Learning about like, okay, this is the nervous system, this is the digestive system. It was really cool. And I was 10 years old and I still remember that as an adult.
By the way, because there's been a question. Yes, on YouTube, I get 70% of super chats and channel memberships and super thanks, things like that. Patreon, I get 90%. So, yeah. For me, the Patreon is better. However, I understand that you might want things like all the cool emojis. So, and also other than the first tier, which I have is higher on YouTube than it is on Patreon. Past that, the tiers all have the same prices. So $5 on YouTube is getting you the same benefits as $5 on Patreon. Same thing for $20 and $10. So, although I don't have on Patreon, I do have a $50 and $100 tier. If you're crazy, want to give me $50 or $100 a month, and those do not exist on the YouTube. So if you do want, for some reason, to spend huge amounts of money on me, you're perfectly allowed to. But I recommend Patreon because that's where it's easiest. And also that gives you the ability to occasionally dictate a video to me. Hey, you're making this video, and then I'm just okay, unless it's inappropriate for the channel. So there are some limitations, but for the most part, it's pretty open. Anyway, here we go.
And there are, Matt, you keep saying the same old tired arguments from the creationists from the 1980s. Well, look, they're right.
We'll just take a drink because that's dumb. No, they were never right, and they're increasingly wrong. Mm-hmm. And major creationist organizations know it, and they put out lists of arguments we don't think creationists should use. And you know why they don't think they should use them? Because they're wrong, and they even
demonstrably wrong. Yeah.
So W.S. Wordsman points out that Patreon doesn't get me feathers or bent in a tutu or the possibility thereof. That's true. That's only super chats on Tuesday streams. That's the only time that works is super chats. So fair enough.
Yeah.
The creation science movement has always been right.
Just take another drink.
I'm out. So.
We're also going to put up a citation needed. But Maddie, come on. You had a whole break to refill your... Chose not to. That's on you.
I did choose not to.
They're like, well, could you be wrong, Matt? I know I'm not wrong.
Not what was being asked, but you absolutely could be wrong.
Asked. And that's also really, like... Listen, that's not... One of the problems is, like... Listen, I'm not wrong about... There's certain things I know I'm not wrong about, like science-wise, right? Actually, let me back that up. I guess if like a lot of new evidence would be needed to overturn it, but there's nothing in science that I would say this is like 100% exactly true the way it is. Now, if somebody tries to say that like tornadoes don't happen, right? Like we know that's a false statement because we can go like look at a tornado.
Yeah.
But like what causes a tornado to form? We kind of know how that works. But if somebody came up and said, no, actually it works in this completely different way because of reasons XYZ, like they would need to bring a lot of evidence. But if that was real, then I would, then accept that new consensus. But this statement of, I know I'm not wrong, I know I am right, like that's jumping right into that black and white cult mindset thinking, right? Because especially when it comes to like things that cannot be demonstrably proven, right? Which should be everything, just about everything your religion claims, right? Like your like experience as a person of faith, you know, that's specifically not rooted in science, right. You know, but if you think about your beliefs, you should hold those loosely, right? That should be, I know that this is what I believe and this is why I believe it, but I very much could be wrong, you know? Yeah. And
something we talked about a lot last Matt with Maddie was that Matt was like, if I told you that I could be wrong and I wasn't sure if I was right, would you believe me? And both of us were like, a lot more than we do now.
A lot more than we do now. Yeah. And so there's so much arrogance in the position of, I know I am right.
Right. And this is the guy who says he knows he's right while also believing that the sun needs air to burn because it needs oxygen because it's literally fire.
Right.
Like, Matt, it's hard to imagine how much more wrong you could be about most of the things that you believe about science.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, this is like flat earth level wrong about a lot of things.
Right. So to me, the first thing, and this is like the problem, right? The reason we do these streams, that I do these streams, the problem to me isn't that some guy somewhere thinks that the earth is 6,000 years old, or some guy somewhere thinks that the earth is flat. That's a symptom. That's not the problem, you know? To me, the problem is this, is this fundamentalism and really that mindset of that we talked about this at the top of this stream of black and white thinking, because that leaves so little room for humility and grace and compassion and you know, these other things that come out. If it's like you believe like I do, or you are wrong and evil, that's such a terrifying way to live your life. That sounds like a terrible way to go about, you know, this one life we get here on planet Earth. It's deeply alienating, and as we see with, like, you know, Matt, as he's evolved over his time on the internet, you know, he's just become worse and worse. He is now like calling for violence against marginalized groups, you know, and like you don't get to that spot overnight, you know, and a great way, in my opinion, to like avoid becoming that person is going to be to, well, let's back up from these fundamentalist beliefs, right? Let's accept that like we could be wrong about stuff, that I don't know everything, that I'm not right about everything, you know, and listen to the beliefs and experiences of other people and like believe that is their experience, right. You know? Anyway, sorry, I got real philosophical there for a second, okay. But
I do want to read a super chat, which is from Work in Progress for $19.99 US, who says, "Thank you for slogging through this intellectual muck. Also, AIG is a result of casting clone on a male reproductive organ inside a bag of holding."
Love it.
Take a drink on that one.
Yeah.
Which coincidentally puts us 45 away from the next tutu. So if someone wants to be super generous, we could make Beethoven once again put a tutu around his neck. We tried waist the first time, but like it was invisible. Like it was just
you can't see
it. So he wears it around his neck.
Is it bad that in my mind that's just like, what's that lizard that has the really big frill that like pops out?
I think the basilisk lizard has that. There's a few lizards that do that kind of.
Yeah, I'm thinking specifically of the one that can run on water.
That's often called the Jesus lizard.
Oh, okay. There's a cartoon version in The Rescuers Down Under, which is a deeply underrated Disney movie. That makes me think of Beethoven with that tutu around his neck. That makes me think of that lizard.
So my favorite thing about that movie is it has a goanna named Joanna. Or Joanna, as they say it with the Australian accent. I love that part.
Because 2 + 2 is 4. It will always be 4. The facts will...
Okay, that's math.
Actually, not always.
Well, there's that. But, like, here's the thing, right? Math isn't something that is fundamentally based on just empirical observations of external reality. It has a set of fundamental axioms or axiomata, depending on how fancy you want to be with plurals, that don't have to be proved. They're just assumed from the outset. And then things follow from that. That's fundamentally different than what science is doing, where it's saying, hey, we can use math to describe and predict things, but fundamentally, the basis on which we base all of our conclusions is empirical stuff that we go out, we measure, we observe, we test. And we might be wrong. That's why science has things like confidence ranges, like have measurements like what's your p-value, what's your r-squared value, statistics. Also, Theros Rex for $5 says, hello, my good nerds. What are your favorite OG Jurassic Park dinosaurs, and which one should Matt or Kent give a face-to-face sermon to? So look, I know it's very basic, but in terms of OG Jurassic Park, it's hard for me to not favor the quote-unquote velociraptors, just because they had so much character. And honestly, one of the things is, you know that scene where the kids are in the kitchen running from the velociraptors, and they get into the freezer, and then they manage to trick one of them into the freezer, and then they shut the door on it, but like first it slams on the thing's head? I always cringe at that point, because I'm like, oh my goodness, that looks like it hurts so damn much. And you know what? There aren't many other dinosaurs in the movie that I feel for, but my goodness, do I feel for that velociraptor right there. Because the thing is, look, Velociraptor's not doing anything wrong. It didn't choose to be cloned and set loose in this park.
It's hungry.
Yeah. You?
Okay, one, so much respect for the T-Rex in the original Jurassic Park because they built a robot T-Rex, right? Like, I have so much respect for the craftsmanship behind that. But on screen, the ones that I probably had the most like intense reaction to are the little ones that eat Newman.
Oh, the Dilophosaurus?
Yeah. So they spit the poison in his eyes, and then they all eat him, and like, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Although, unfortunately,
I'm way more scared of them than I am the T-Rex.
So interestingly enough, real Dilophosaurus was about 3 times as big and probably didn't spit poison, and also probably didn't have a frill.
Aww.
Yeah, I know.
I might just like things with frills now that I'm thinking about
that's
this
a
whole
fine thing to like. That's perfectly acceptable.
Yeah.
Also, Steve Reno for $3.50 says Loch Ness Monster needs Tree Fitty with a Mothra emoji. Thank you very much. And yeah, it's true. Loch Ness Monster does need Tree Fitty.
Tree Fitty.
Which is another one of those South Park references for those of you who are too young.
Will always be the facts. The Word of God will always be the Word of God. It's unchanging.
Well, first, you haven't bothered to even argue that it's the Word of God, but given that you're in a church, I feel like I can let that go, because like I feel like that's probably part of like the prerequisites for being in this particular club.
Yeah.
But you know what? We're going to start wrapping up here because it is 3 minutes to the hour, so you know.
Oh, I wanted to say very quickly, a world where 2 + 2 does not equal 4 would be one where in our like normal counting system, 0 and 1 are very important. 0 is the additive identity, and 1 is the multiplicative identity. So that is if I add 0 to anything, it doesn't change it. If I multiply anything by 1, it doesn't change it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I multiply something by 0, it changes it. If I add 1 to something, it changes it. You could define a system of math where your additive identity equals your multiplicative identity, right? And numbers would work different. And that is actually, you still make a complete set that way.
True.
But the only member of that set is this singular number that is like 0 = 1. Anyway, but in that world, 2 + 2
perfectly consistent. 2. Yeah, it's perfectly consistent, but it's a weird way to go about things.
It's not super useful, but it's mathematically and logically perfectly valid.
Right. All right, guys. So first, Maddie, do you have any announcements or things upcoming, or even just hang tight, gang? I'm working on it.
It's a little of the latter. I've got some TTRPG streams though. So
Nice.
We're playing Power Rangers tomorrow night. That's gonna be super fun.
Absolutely.
And me, I'm playing in a Halloween Spooky Season 3 shot.
Yay.
Over that's being DM'd by Cheshire Vic, friend of this channel. Here I have my costume right next to me. This is my costume for that. I've got a Haragon Assassin rogue. Anywho. And the first episode of that has already gone out. We streamed on Amateurish Productions over on Twitch. You should be able to watch the playback. And then this Sunday and the last Sunday in October, we will have the conclusion of that very fun story.
Awesome.
And as for my channel, hang tight. I haven't had a chance to record. I haven't had the spare time to record because of a baby.
Look, it happens. It's a thing. All right. So on this channel, let me open up a calendar so that I know what the heck I'm talking about. All right. On Thursday, the 20th, we should be looking at the premiere of Natural Selection, featuring Randy Galuza, the CEO, I think, of ICR. He's the head guy in ICR. I don't remember exactly what his job title is. But basically, he's on about how natural selection totally isn't real, you guys. Contra basically every other young Earth creationist in the world, because they're all like, no, man, that's super dumb. But yeah, so we're gonna take a look in 3 parts at whether or not Randy Galuza can support his assertion that natural selection is fake, though. Which, spoiler alerts, no, he cannot support that. So that's on the 20th. On the 22nd, I am going to be doing Dapper Reacts number 12, I think, which is going to be Christianity and Islam Against Evolution, in which we're going to be taking a look at a video involving a Christian young Earth creationist and a Muslim about Age of the Earth creationist. So look forward to that. I already have the thumbnail, but I haven't scheduled it yet. The 25th should be Jackson with Jackson, assuming that I hear back from Jackson, which, to be fair, I haven't sent him a message, so I'm not expecting to yet. But assuming that he's good, it'll be Jackson with Jackson number whatever. We'll continue to look at Dr. Charles Jackson talking about human evolution and being really, really, really bad at it.
Bad Jackson is really bad at science.
He is. It's kind of amazing. Like, his advice of all bacterial infections should be treated by broad-spectrum antibiotics. Like, oh my goodness, no. That's a terrible idea. So that's going to be the 25th. The 27th should be the next episode of Natural Selection Rebunked. So that's going to be part 2 of 3, obviously. No idea about the 29th. The 1st should be Kent with Bent. And then the 3rd should be the final episode of Natural Selection Rebunked. Because basically, you know, if Randy Galuza says it, he's going to debunk natural selection. So obviously I'm rebunking it. Because that's how I think English works or something. I don't know. I don't speak this language. All right, guys. Thank you very much. I will leave you with the end credits. Maddie, thanks again for coming. I look forward to it. All right. Bye, guys. Thanks for watching, but before you go, I just want to say a special thank you to my channel members and my patrons, especially those pledging $20 or above. Bob Knob, Work in Progress, Benthoven, Cynically Skeptic, Denny5252, Ian Chen, Landon Knoll, Maddie Babbity, McSpooks, Sphincter of Doom, The Venerable Bede, and Patrick Dennis. As you probably know, YouTube is a very volatile platform, and from month to month my income on the channel can swing wildly. But the people you see on screen are directly supporting so that I don't have to worry too much about that, and the channel can keep going as it is, and perhaps even improving. If you'd like to join this team, there are links below to join the channel or in the description to join the Patreon. The Patreon starts as low as $1 a month, and the channel memberships start as low as $1.99 a month. On Patreon, you can even get a discount for pledging annually. If you do decide to pledge, you'll get access to an exclusive Discord server just for channel supporters, as well as early access to all of my pre-recorded videos, often up to 2 months in advance. Higher tiers will unlock even better perks. Now, if an annual or monthly pledge isn't right for you, but you still want to support the channel, there is a merch store down in the description, as well as an Amazon wishlist, just for me. And if financial support isn't something you can or want to do, then if you still want to help out the channel, please just like and share these videos and make sure you comment on them. It really helps the channel out.